Students, so in the last class we almost finished with the unipolar world, and today we'll start a new topic for you all that is not there in your old book. Okay, as per the new syllabus, you have Arab Spring as a new topic in your second chapter, that is the end of bipolarity. Okay, unipolar world, that is US hegemony, is also a part of your second chapter. Okay, from where to which topic you have to study in the unipolar world, we'll let you know with time. For now, just focus on the end of bipolarity plus the idea of what is the unipolar world, what has been the unipolar world in the history of political science, and third, Arab Spring. Okay, you will get a handful notes for Arab Spring. All right, so do not worry about it. Let's just understand what was Arab Spring and what has been Arab Spring all through. Okay, now students, Arab Spring was a series of pro-democracy uprisings which enveloped several largely the Muslim countries, including Tunisia, Morocco, Syria, Libya, Egypt, and Bahrain. Now, what are pro-democracy uprisings? Pro-democracy uprisings are those which are in favor of democracy. Now, naturally, if you understand that these were pro-democracy uprising, it means that democracy was not there in all these countries. In all these, especially the Arab countries. Okay, let's just try and understand it in the way that since all of these uprisings, these protests took place in favor of democracy, they were against their, then government, that is a monarchical government that were ruling the parts of Arab countries. Okay, now gradually you see these events in those nations generally began in the spring of 2011. Okay, and that is why the name is Arab Spring. The political, the social impact of all these movements, of all these popular uprisings remains significant even today, years after they have ended. Now, how it started? See, it was a loosely related group of protests that ultimately resulted in the regime changes. As I have told you, that since they were pro-democracy movements, which means that they were in favor of democracy and they were against the then governments which were ruling in those parts of the countries. Okay, now which were those parts? They were largely Tunisia, Morocco, Syria, Libya, and then looking at them, there were many other Arab countries which started the movements. Okay, now not all of the movements could be deemed as successful. At least if the end goal was increased democracy and cultural freedom, then not all of them were successful. In fact, for many countries enveloped by the revolts of Arab Spring, the period since then has been hallmarked by increased instability and oppression. Usually, even today we talk about the unrest in Syria, the unrest in Libya, the unrest in Egypt. Why these Arab countries are always in unrest? Because they all are struggling with the pro-democracy movements, with the monarchical governments that they are having. Okay, so given the impact of the Arab Spring throughout the Northern America and Middle East, it's very easy to forget the series of large-scale political and the social movements. Okay, but how it started, when it started, and who started it? You must know it always starts from the roots. Right, as it is always said that any movement, any growth, anything, it begins from the roots. So this Arab Spring began in December 2010, that is 2010, when a Tunisian street vendor, okay, a Tunisian street vendor named Mohammed Bouazizi, he set himself on fire. Why? To protest the arbitrary seizing of his vegetable stand by the police over the failure to obtain a permit. Okay, he could not obtain a permit and the policemen, they seized his vegetable stand. Now this street vendor, in protest of it, he set himself on fire. Now here begins the challenge. What was not done by the great the leaders, the ministers, the high class people of these countries was done by the Tunisian street vendor. His sacrificial act that served as a catalyst, that served as a yard, that served as a weapon, okay, which started the so-called Jasmine Revolution in Tunisia. The street protest ensued in Tunis, the country's capital. It prompted the authoritarian president Zine El Abidine Ben Ali to abdicate his position and to flee to Saudi Arabia. You must know he ruled for more than 20 years, and just imagine, one sacrificial act made him to leave his chair, and it served as a catalyst for the others, for the whole population, larger parts, to turn into protest against the authoritarian regime, and finally he left the country and he went to Saudi Arabia. Now activists in other countries in the region were also inspired by this change in the government. The country's first democratic parliamentary elections were held in October 2011 and began to protest similar authoritarian governments in their own nations. The participants in these grassroots movements, they wanted increased social freedom. They wanted greater participation in the political process. And this includes the Tahrir Square uprisings in Cairo, in Egypt, and similar protests took place in Bahrain as well. In some cases, these protests morphed into full-scale civil wars, as you can see in the countries like Libya, Syria, Yemen, right? So all these protests were basically against an authoritarian regime in the favor of democracy. And that is what was Arab Spring. But still, why the name was Arab Spring? It was because it is a reference to the revolutions of 1848, also known as People's Spring, when political upheavals were in Europe. Ever since that spring, it has been used to describe the movements towards democracy, like even in Czechoslovakia's 1968 Prague Spring. Western media began popularizing the term as Arab Spring in 2011. Another reference related to the names I have given you here. That is 2011 began the spring, right? So that is how it started. Now about Egypt, what happened in Egypt? In Egypt, where early changes arising from the Arab Spring gave many a hope after the ouster of President Hosni Mubarak, authoritarian rule has apparently returned. Now, following the controversial election of Mohamed Morsi in 2012, a coup led by the defense minister Abdel Fattah el-Sisi installed the latter as a president in 2013, as he remains in power even today. And then you come to Libya. In Libya, authoritarian dictator Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, very famous, he was overthrown in October 2011 during a violent civil war, and he was tortured, dragged to the streets, and executed by the opposition fighters. Now, since Gaddafi's fall, Libya has remained in a state of civil war, and two opposing governments effectively rule separate regions of the country. And Libya's civilian population has suffered significantly during the years of political upheaval, with the violence on the streets, food, healthcare, all these services became limited. Then if you talk about the civil war in Syria, it began in the aftermath of Arab Spring that lasted for several years, forcing many to leave the country to seek refuge in Turkey, Greece, through Western Europe. And for a time, the militant group ISIS had declared a caliphate, a nation governed by Islamic law, in northeast Syria. The group executed thousands of people and many others fled the regions. Yet, although ISIS has largely been defeated in Syria, the oppressive regime of long-time dictator Bashar al-Assad remains in power in the country. And therefore, the ongoing civil war in Yemen can also be traced to the Arab Spring. The country's infrastructure has damaged. The conflict has devolved into a tribal warfare. Now, that is how there has been so many changes. Even in the parts of Bahrain also, peaceful pro-democracy protest has been there in 2011-2012, which were violently suppressed by the government of King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. So officially, the country has a constitutional monarchy form of government, but personal freedoms remain limited. It remains limited. So, if you see the timeline of the Arab Spring, it is in December 17 where Mohammad Bouazizi set himself on fire. Then you have Tunisian president fleeing to Saudi Arabia. Then you have January, the first coordinated mass protests are held in Egypt. Then in February, the Egypt's Mubarak steps down. Again in March, pro-democracy movement starts in Syria, 2011. Police beating the thousands of pro-democracy protesters in Morocco in May. Again in July, Moroccan voters approve constitutional changes. And similarly, it is continued till November 28, 2011, where Egypt holds the first democratic elections. And in June, Morsi is elected president but is removed from the power by the coup. That is how has been the Arab Spring. Right. Now all these which are highlighted, that is Hosni Mubarak, Mohammad Morsi, Mohammad Gaddafi, civil war in Syria, ISIS, Bashar al-Assad, they are all important ones for you. Names of the leaders so that you remain updated as who all were the leaders who were involved. Now what is ISIS? It's Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, which is a Sunni jihadist group with a particularly violent ideology that calls itself a caliphate and claims religious authority over all the Muslims. Am I clear with everybody? Okay, and rest all are clear to you? Now, why did Arab Spring took place and what were the real causes of it? See students, the world watched the events of the Arab Spring unfold, gripped by the narrative of a young generation peacefully rising up against the authoritarian regime. It is widely believed that Arab Spring is to have been, it has been instigated by dissatisfaction, particularly within the youth and the unions with the rule of the local governments. Though some have speculated that wide gaps in the income level, pressures caused by the recession may have a hand in as well. But some activists have taken a part in programs where they say that it was largely because of the dissatisfaction with the authoritarian governments. Okay, and also at that time there were numerous factors which led to protest, including monarchy, human rights violation, political corruption, economic decline, unemployment, extreme poverty, number of demographic structural factors, right? And then finally, the catalyst for the revolts in all the northern African and Persian Gulf countries included the concentration of wealth, the money, the income gap in the hands of monarchs in power for decades, and insufficient transparency of its redistribution, corruption, and especially the refusal of the youth to accept that status difference. Okay, so that is a brief information about Arab Spring to all of you. Okay, if you see the role of social media, then in the wake up of Arab Spring protest, a considerable amount of attention has been given on the role of social media. Okay, that has focused and that has allowed citizens within the areas affected by Arab uprisings as a means for collective activism to give state-operated media channels. The influence of social media on political activism during the Arab Spring has been much debated. Protests took place in states with a very high level of internet usage, such as Bahrain. Then in states with some lowest internet penetration, such as Yemen, Libya. So social media has actually made it possible to reach to the every corners of the world, to make it so popular. Facebook, Twitter, other major social media played a very key role in the movement of Egyptian, Tunisian activists in particular. Okay, people created pages on Facebook to raise awareness about alleged crimes against humanity, such as police brutality in the Egyptian revolution. Okay, so that has been a strong role of social media to popularize Arab Spring, right? Where you see Tunisia experiencing a series of conflicts for about 3 years, where protests continued for many months. And these protests included rallies, sit-ins, strikes. In Egypt, you see the labor movement had been strong for years, more than 3,000 labor actions since 2004, and that provided an important venue for organizing the protest collective actions. One important demonstration was an attempted worker strike on 6th of April 2008 at the state-run textile factories of Al-Mahala Al-Kubr, just outside Cairo. Okay, so such has been different, in different cities, in different places, the kind of uprising within the parts of the Arab countries, right? You see the anti-Mubarak demonstration. In Algeria, the discontent had been building for years over a number of issues, right? Social discontent, food strikes. So such has been the plight of the Arab Spring or the people within the Arabian countries. Okay, now this is a brief introduction, or this is a brief information rather, about what was Arab Spring, why Arab Spring took place, which were the countries that were part of it, and what were the effects, and finally how regime changed. Okay, now this is all about chapter 2. Your chapter 2, that is the end of bipolarity, is finished. Okay, you studied about the end of bipolar world, you studied about the coming of Russia, you studied about tensions and conflicts, you studied about Indo-Russian relations, you also studied about unipolar world, that is US hegemony. Okay, then Indo-US relations, right, how hegemony can be overcome, and finally Arab Spring. Now I have to give you 2 important notes, that is about NAM and about Arab Spring. Okay, those are for your long answers. Okay, now for the coming test that you all are going to have, online test, for that your portions will be chapter 1 from world politics, that is Cold War era. Chapter 2, that is end of bipolarity, till your tensions and conflicts, that is Indo-Russian relations. Okay, only till there. You won't be having unipolar world, US, Arab Spring is not the part of your syllabus for test. Okay, and you have challenges of nation building. Fine. So you have 3 chapters there. Number 1, the Cold War era. I'm repeating it. Number 1, Cold War era, the end of bipolarity till Indo-US relations, till Indo-Russia relations, I'm sorry. And third is challenges of nation building. Okay. Now, if you have any problem till here, do let me know and I'll stop here for the day. Thank you, students.